The portion of Noach deals with the world in a chaotic state, how the world became totally perverse and violating the laws of humanity and ethics. And so God called upon Noach and said, build for yourself a teva, build for yourself an ark. And for 120 years, Noach built this ark. And anyone that asked him, what are you doing? He would say to them, well, God is destroying the world. Do tshuva. After 120 years, God then brought a mabul, a flood on the world for 40 days and 40 nights, which parallels the 40 sa'ah of a mikvah, of a ritual bath. And by doing so, God purified the entire world and made the world anew. The mnemonic at the end of the Parsha of Noach is Kuf Nun Gimel Psukim, that there are 153 passages in the Sedra of Noach. And then it goes on to give two names. One is Bezalel. Bezalel is the Siman, is the mnemonic. And another mnemonic is Avi Yiskah Loit, the father of Yiskah and the father of Loit. And so to understand what is the connection between 153 and the portion of Noach, and also to connect this with the name Bezalel, and also the name of Avi Yiskah and Loit. Who was Bezalel? Bezalel was a 13-year-old boy who was the architect of the Holy Temple. And we find many parallels between Bezalel and Noach. First and foremost, Bezalel built the Mishkan, the sanctuary. And so Noach built also a sanctuary, a place to protect all the animals of the world. A second connection is that in the Mishkan, in the sanctuary that Bezalel built, the Shekhinah came down. God's presence was prevalent. As the Torah says, V'asu li migdash, make for me a sanctuary, v'shachanti b'soicham, and I will dwell in that sanctuary. And similarly, God dwelled in the Teva, God dwelled in Noach's ark. How do we know this? Because of the fact that Noach was in the ark together with the animals not only 40 days when it rained and poured, but it was actually an entire year of 365 days that Noach was in this ark. And on one floor were all the animals of the world. Some 2 by 2 and some were 7. And there were also shadim. Shadim are the angels of destruction, the ghosts, the dibuks. They also came into the Teva. And Noach had to feed them every day. And yet, even though all the animals of the world were on one floor, yet nobody killed each other. Not one of these peers were terminated by another predator. On the contrary, we are told in Chassidus that within the Teva reigned the spirit of Mashiach. And that's why the lion and the lamb and the sheep, together with the wolf and the lion and the leopard and the snake, all lied together. And there was no hostility between one and the other. Because within this Teva was the divine presence of God, and it was to the magnitude of the way it's going to be when Mashiach comes. So again, we have the parallel between Noach and Bezalel. Both of them brought the Shekhinah, brought the divine presence into their ark, into their sanctuary. And thirdly, Bezalel means Betzel Kael, in the shadow of God. Bezalel was in the shadow of God. He had God's presence. He had God's knowledge, and therefore it says he created the temple simply by looking at the letters, the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. He was able to create all of the DNA and all of the details of the vessels in the Holy Temple. And we find a similar expression that Noach walked with God. Velikim ishalech Noach. That God walked together with Noach, and Noach walked together with God. A similar concept of Bezalel. So this is the connection between the first mnemonic, to remember 153 verses in the portion of Noach. But why do we have a second mnemonic of Avi, Yiskah, and Lot? Avi, Yiskah, and Lot, who is the father of Yiskah and who is the father of Lot? We know that Avram Avinu had a brother. His name was Haran. And Rashi tells us an interesting episode which is based on the teachings of the Medrash. And that is that after the famous story of Avram Avinu breaking the idols of his father Terach, Avram, even though he was the one responsible for monotheism in the world, he had a father by the name of Terach who made a living by selling idols. He had an idol factory. He made many idols. And one day Terach left the store and told Avram to watch the idols, and Avram was standing there, and an old lady came in with a plate of soup and said, "I want you to feed the idols this soup." And Avram said, "Sure, not a problem." And at that moment, he had an amazing idea. He took a big hatchet and destroyed all the idols, and put the hatchet in the hand of the largest idol. His father comes back to the store, he sees all the idols destroyed. He says, "What went on over here?" He says, "Dad, I don't know, I can't." This lady came in with the soup, and all the idols wanted it, and they started fighting. And the biggest idols killed everybody, destroyed everybody, and he ate the soup. And Terach said, "Are you crazy? Are you nuts, Avram? Idols can't move, idols can't talk, idols can't eat." He says, Dad, exactly. And you sell this stuff. And you believe in these stones. Terach was burning mad. He took Avram to Nimrod, the king at that time, and said, "Take my son, do what you want with him. He doesn't believe in the idols." Nimrod said, "Bow down to me." Avram said, "No." "Fine," said Nimrod, "I'm going to make a big, big inferno. I will throw you into the fire, and we'll see if your God will save you." "And what about your brother Haran? What does he believe in?" Haran said, "I'm not sure." Haran said, "Look, I'll play it safe. If Avram survives the inferno, I'll believe in Avram's God. If not, Nimrod, I believe in your God." Very simple. Nimrod built this amazing inferno, threw Avram Avinu into it, and Avram Avinu walked around plucking apples from the inferno. A miracle happened, the tree grew, and he was collaborating together with the angels. Haran sees this amazing feat. He says, "I believe in the God of Abraham." They take Haran, they throw him into the inferno, and he dies. Because his emunah, his faith, was incomplete. It was only based on after seeing Avram Avinu's miraculous save. This concept of believing and not believing is also the same concept that we find by Noach. Rashi clearly tells us that Noach did not go into the teva, he did not go into the ark until it began to rain, because he lacked faith. He believed and did not believe. He wasn't sure whether or not this was really going to happen. For 120 years he was building this ark and nothing happened yet. And he didn't believe, he wasn't sure if this would actually take place. So perhaps this is the reason why our sages bring the mnemonic of Avi, Yiskah, Lot, the father of Yiskah and Lot, because the father of Yiskah and Lot was Haran, and that was the brother of Avraham, who believed but did not believe. Another approach is that Yiskah all the commentaries tell us, is Sarah. It was really Abraham's wife. Why is she called Yiskah? Because of the fact she saw. Sarah saw. She was a prophetess. She had the ability to see the future. And that's why the Torah calls her by the name Yiskah. And she was a sister to Lot. Lot was her brother. However, both of them saw the future and prepared for the future. Sarah saw the future when Ishmael was in her house, and she saw that Ishmael was a bad influence over her child Yitzchak. She threw him out of the house. Avraham Avinu was upset, and God tells Abraham, whatever your wife Sarah tells you, you shall do. Throw Ishmael out of the house. And from here we have a lesson for all Jewish men: listen to your wives. Sarah was a visionary. She was looking for the future. Lot also, though he was a rasha, he was considered to be wicked. He was wicked because he left Abraham, he went to Sodom, which was a wicked city. Yet, he also was a visionary in the sense that after Sodom and Gomorrah was turned over and destroyed, he sinned, having intimacy with his daughters, but he did this with the intention to preserve humanity. So he was a visionary for the future. And this concept, both Lot and both Yiskah, Sarah, did things that were to preserve the future. Sarah to preserve the future of the Jewish people, the Jewish nation, and Lot, mistakenly but with the good intent of preserving humanity. And this is also the theme of Noach. Noach went into the Teva to preserve all of God's creatures and creation. At that time, God said, I'm wiping out the entire world. And so he built this ark to spare his family and all of the animals in the world. And from this ark would begin the new world. And so therefore, it says in the Medrash that Noach saw a new world. Ra'a olam chadash. He had the ability to see the future of a new world. And therefore, the second mnemonic is the father of Yiskah and Lot. A third approach would be that both Sarah, which is Yiskah, and Lot were famous for their hachnasas orchim, for inviting guests into their home. We know that Abraham and Sarah had a tent, open from all four sides, and wayfarers would come into the tent and they would eat and they would be taught about God. Lot, even though he was a rasha, as we said earlier, but he also had mesiras nefesh, he had self-sacrifice to bring in the angels who he thought they were people. When they came to turn over Sodom and Gomorrah, so Lot said, come into my house. Even though he knew he was putting his life in danger, because the rule in Sodom and Gomorrah was you're not allowed to have guests in your home. But being that he was raised in the house of Abraham and Sarah, he was totally permeated with this belief and with this mitzvah of hachnasas orchim. And this answers a very interesting question that we find based on the Rambam. The Rambam tells us that a person is not obligated to die to do a mitzvah. On the contrary, v'chai behem, you should live by the Torah, not die by the Torah. But there are three mitzvahs that you are supposed to give up your life for. One is idolatry, number two is adultery, and number three is murder. In other words, if someone says, murder someone else or I will murder you, you're not allowed to murder the other person. Who says your blood is more red than the other person's blood? If a person said, commit adultery with that woman or I will kill you, you're not allowed to do it. You have to say, kill me first. And the same is true with idolatry. If someone says, bow down to the idol, or I will kill you, the law is you have to say, kill me first. What about the other 610 commandments of the Torah? Like Shabbos, kosher, things like that. Are you allowed to die for those things? If someone comes over and puts a gun to your head and says, eat non-kosher, or break the Shabbos, should you die? The answer is no. You are allowed to save your life first. And we see it every day. On Shabbos, if a woman is having a baby, you take the woman in the car and you bring it to the hospital. You break the Shabbos to save the life of the baby. On the contrary, that's called honoring the Shabbos. You're preserving life. So the Rambam says that if a person decides that he's willing to die for one of the other mitzvos, and he dies because of that, he is liable to death. He has taken his life in his own hands, and basically he has committed suicide because he had no right to die for that. And therefore the question is, how was Lot able to take these 3 guests into his home if he knew he was putting his life in danger? And the answer is that he was taught by Abraham. This was his entire essence. And therefore there was no way for him to get out of it. It's interesting to note that Noach also put his life in danger, because every day he had to work and serve all of the animals of the world. It says in the Torah, Ach Noach, and Rashi says, what does it mean, Ach Noach, only Noach? To tell us that he was groaning and spitting blood from the difficulty and the hardship that he had schlepping and cleaning and helping all the animals. He could have said to God, God, you want me to build a teva? I'll build a teva. You feed them yourself. I'm going to sit upstairs. I'm going to watch TV. And after the flood, wake me up. But he didn't do that. He was responsible every day to go down. He was the zookeeper. And he had to go and feed and clean and wash and take care of all of these animals. He simply went on Mesiras Nefesh. He gave his life for these animals. So therefore, again, the Torah hints to this by saying Avi Yiskah and Lot, the father of Yiskah and Lot, both Sarah and similarly Noach, all gave of themselves to fulfill their mission in this world. It's interesting to note an amazing finding that I found, and that is the first letter of Sarah is Shin. The first letter of Lot is Lamed. The first letter of Noach is a Nun. Now, the gematria of Shin is 300. The gematria of Lamed is 30. The gematria of Nun is 50. What was the size of the teva? What was the size of the ark? 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, and 30 cubits high, representing Noach, Lot, and Sarah. All of these 3 people dedicated their lives for the future, had vision, and created a new reality. So, what is the connection between all of this and 153 Kuf Gan Pasukim? You know, in Hebrew, the letters represent numbers. So, Kuf Gan Pasukim represent the story of the portion of Noach. It starts off with a Kuf. What's the letter Kuf? The Zohar tells us that God did not want to create the world with the letter Kuf. Why? He said Kuf is part of the word sheker. Sheker means falsehood. He doesn't want the world to be created with falsehood. The Kuf represents chaos, because God actually created the world with the letter Hey. As the Zohar says, God went like that, with the hay, and from the hay, all of the 10 utterances of creation formulated. Now, the kuf looks like the letter hay, but a bit different. The hay has 3 lines, one on the top, one on the right, the one on the left. The top line is thought, the right line is speech, and the line on the left is action. When the action is like the letter hay, it's perfect. But when the line extends beneath the baseline, it represents one who is chaotic, one who goes beyond the norm, one who violates nature, one who violates ethics and values. A perversion, anarchy of the world. And furthermore, the left side in Kabbalah represents Gevura. Gevura is severity, again, anger, wrath, etc., etc. So the portion opens up with the wrath of God upon the world. It opens up with the fact that humanity went out of control. It extended themselves beyond the baseline, the letter Kuf, which represents chaos. But the objective of the flood was to transform this Kuf into a gan, into a garden, which is Nun Gimel 53, is a garden. So it starts off with Kuf, 100, which is chaos, transformed into gan, into a garden, by the fact that Noach brought all of the animals into the boat, and number 2, after the flood, he started the world anew by planting new gardens and making the world a better place to live in. So what is the message of the Parsha? The message of the portion based on the mnemonics is that we, each one of us, needs to build a home for God, where God will dwell. However, it's not enough that we build the home for ourselves, but we have to bring in everybody. We have to bring in all the people, all the neighbors into this home, that they too should live under this roof in peace and harmony and feel the Shekhinah and feel the divine presence. And this concept is underscored in a year of Hakhel, a year that we have to ingather all the people of Israel together, that the king would bring all the Jewish people together the year after Shemitah, in the year of Hakhel, to the Holy Temple, all men, women, and children. So therefore the lesson of the Parsha of Noach is a reminder that even if the world around us is chaotic, we can create our teva, we can create our home into a sanctuary, into a garden, and there to bring others to experience this light and this energy and this love. And by doing so, we can truly change the world as Noach did, to see a new world in front of him, to make the world a better place and a holier place and a godlier place. And this begins with Noach representing the Noachide laws for all the nations of the world. So we hope and pray that with the study of the portion of Noach, we'll see this transformation of the entire world under the knowledge of God, with the coming of Mashiach speedily in our days.